So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, this is the first lecture of the course selected topics in Web and Multimedia CSA 291, in which here we are going to go through 3dsMax. In particular, we are going to focus on this exam, preparation objectives. As you can see here, it is Autodesk certified user in 3dsMax. And this is the exam objectives, and the course CSF is linked to this exam thing. So we are going to start with the first topic of this exam objectives, how to do a scene management. Actually, before diving into the scene management and what we need to know in scene management, let's just review what we actually demonstrated last lecture about the 3dsMax. As we can see here, we have 4 windows which are considered the viewports. Here you can see all your models and you can edit, manipulate, create everything. Here you have the scene explorer, the menu bar, and the toolbar, and here you have extra toolbars, and here you have the panels. I just extended their appearance. They are by default like this, but I like to give them more space, so when we select some modifiers or some settings, they are long, so instead of scrolling, I'm going to have them both here. And I'm going to do this when we need it, so let me just keep it like this. So this is here is the panels. You have the create panel, modify panel, display panel, motion panel, and system, and so on and so forth. Okay, let me just increase them a little bit, and here you have the utilities. Inside each panel you have sub panels. You have the geometry, you have shapes, and all these kind of things. Okay, so this is what we actually demonstrated last lecture, if you remember. Here you have 3 orthographic viewports, which means they are not 3D actually, or let's say 2D shapes, because orthographic could be 3D as well. Here you have the top, here you have the front, left, and here the perspective view of your scene. So this is called scene, like in PowerPoint presentation, in Excel sheet, in Word document, in Flash stage, so in Animate, sorry, it's not Flash anymore, stage, and here we call it scene. So this is why the first topic is going to be scene management. Okay, so what we need to do first, we need to learn how to set up a project. Okay, so first of all, what's the difference between a project and a file? By default, you can just start doing anything, and then you go to file, and then you can save this file, and this is going to be saved as a 3dsMax file, which is .max extension. Actually, the difference between project and file is the project, a whole folder that includes all your files, and you should finished already some of the web development courses, and in particular the CSA 103 course, in which you learned Dreamweaver, where we taught you how to create a site folder, which is a folder that has subfolders for HTML files, JavaScript files, CSS, images, other resources. So when you move your folder, all the files are going to be related or are going to be moved with it, and all the links are going to be maintained. You're not going to have any issues with that. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing in 3dsMax. We're going to set up a folder for our project where we can save by default, or at the beginning, the .max file, and then we can also save images or bitmaps, for example, for materials. We can link other files that can be imported or merged into our 3dsMax file. So at the beginning, we need to go to customize, and I will go to the preferences, and from the preferences we are going to files, and from the files I will check this on. You see it was off by default. I will check this on, convert local file paths to relative. And I think at this point of your study you should know the difference between the relative and absolute file paths. Absolute file path, let's say it's going to be always the full path, C:/ or / my documents, and so on and so forth. Relative files are going to be always related to your project folder. So when you move your project folder, let's say your project is called ACU, and inside this ACU you have images folder. When you move this the ACU folder, the images are going to be always related to this ACU, whether it's in C or D or E or even if in other computers subfolders. Okay, and we are going to demonstrate this as we go. But at this point, you should just check this on. So again, you go to Customize menu, and then you select Preferences, and then from Preferences, we go to Files and select Convert Local File Paths to Relative, and then we press or we hit OK. And now we are ready to create our folder. So I will go to File. Simply we go to Project, and as you can see here, you can open recent projects that I already opened. You can set active project. You can create an empty folder, which is going to be a folder, empty folder, just like an empty folder in Windows, or you can create a default folder. You can create a from and so on, and then last we can configure project files. At this point, we just need to create a default folder. So I'm gonna go to the default folder here. I'm gonna go to my desktop. You see, this is a folder that I already created. You will see when you create your folder, you're gonna have all these subfolders inside it. So I will create a new folder. I'm gonna call it CSA291 as an example. I'm gonna use this file for the rest of the course, the ACU, which is the name of the certification that we are aiming to prepare for. And then I will select this. I will say, sorry, this one, select folder, and that's it. You selected your folder. If you go here now to the project and see recent projects, you have these two things. Okay, so I will go now to the File Explorer, to Windows. Let's go to the desktop. You will see here, this is the desktop, and here I have 291, where you have all these subfolders. As you can see, let me go to the view and details. Just let me hide the navigation pane for now, so you focus on this only. You see, these are the subfolders you have. So basically, we are gonna save our files in here, in scene folder. You're gonna save them here, and you see we have a lot of things here: render outputs, render presets. We have scene assets we can add here, material libraries we can put here, so we can use materials from there, and so on and so forth. The video post files that can be used. Are we gonna use all of them at the beginning? Definitely not. We are gonna mainly focus on scenes and material libraries at the beginning, but as we go, maybe render outputs, not maybe when you're gonna render, but as we go, we are gonna continue using all of these things. Of course, if we need, we might not need, but if we need, we are gonna do this thing. So this is basically the first thing, how we are gonna create a new project and how we are gonna set up the project. As I told you before, you can go always to File, Project, and do any related things to the project. You can set this project as the active project. I'm gonna select this one here, and this is going to be my active project. So when by default, this is going to be the project that I'm using. If you need to do any configuration from project paths, you should do this. You see the animation is going to be in the scene assets animations. The archives is going to be here. The materials are going to be here. These subfolders that you already have in your file here, you see that you have here in your folder, sorry, not file. Anyway, if you need to modify them, you can modify them. You can make them absolute if you want. I mean, there is no point to do this at this point because we made them ourselves relative. Okay, again, when we finish the recording, we can discuss the absolute and relative path or file paths if you have any doubts or any questions, or if you don't remember them. So I'm gonna just press OK or cancel. I didn't do anything. So now I'm ready to save my file. So I will go and save, and as you see, by default it will go inside the scene. You see scene 291. So I'm gonna call this scene management. Okay, this is the first actually topic or exam objectives that we are going to cover. So this is the scene management. So I'm going to save my file scene management, or you can save it objective 1, whatever, or you can save it your name, but I always prefer to save files with names that relates to their content or to their purpose. So I'm going to save So now my file is scene management. As you can see here, my version is student version. It's not a commercial, it's not for commercial use. So we are not using it for commercially, actually we are using it for teaching purposes. So the next topic or the next point we're gonna need to learn is the changing few, not all scene preferences, some of our scene preferences. We're gonna start by changing the grid spacing and then the scene units, which are very important, although they are not gonna be very important for you at the beginning because you are not gonna create a very complex scenes. And the last one we are going to cover here as exam objectives, setting the frame rate. And you should be familiar with the frame rate, and you know what frame rate or how frame rate relates to your animations, because you already finished Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects, Adobe Animate, and these related these courses. Okay. So first of all, what is the grid? The grid is these gray lines that you can see in all viewports. As we said in the previous lecture, you can press G to hide them. This is a shortcut. You can press G to view them. Okay, I'm gonna just maximize this. So what we are gonna do now is changing the space in here, changing the grid spacing. You might need the spaces between grids to be more or less, because as we will go inshallah in the future, you will see that when we model or when we do anything, we can snap or we can set our objects to snap to these grid points or grid lines, or both as well. So this is very important. It's very important to make sure that we set the spacing that will be suitable for our use. So to do this, we go to Tools and you go to Grids and Snaps. Of course, different versions, you might find them in different locations. I remember a long time ago when I used, I think before 2012 version, it was under the Customize actually. But now we go to Tools, Snap, Grids and Snaps, and we are gonna select Grid and Snap settings, as you can see here. And from Grid and Snap settings, we are gonna change the grid and the snap settings, and it will automatically adjust, or sorry, not automatic, it will be applied on real time. So I'm not going to go to snaps or options. We are going to learn about these later on. I'm going to go to the home grid. You see the grid spacing is 10. I can increase this, and you see the spacing is increasing. You might say no, it's not increasing. It is. This is why actually the size is increases. You even change the perspective, extends. If you need to make it longer or shorter, you can change the major lines, every nth line. Okay, these are just like a normal graph book where you have a major lines. It might not be visible now, but basically this is what you can do, or what you can change from here. طبعا you can select you want to this dynamic update to affect the active viewport or all viewports at the same time. So right now I'm not going to change anything. I'm just showing you what you can do actually here. I think this number was 7 as well. So if you don't remember, we can just restart. Okay, so you see I will just go to File, Restart, reset. Yes, so I will go to the Tools again, Grids and the Snap, and I will go to Home Grid. You see it was 10, 10, 7. Yes, this was 10, not 7. So this leads us to a very important question. What's the difference between a new and reset? So in new, you're going to just start a new file with nothing inside it. You're not going to affect the settings. While reset, it's going to reset the contents of the file in addition to its settings to the default state. So if you want everything to go back to the default, select reset. Do not select a new. If you don't want anything to go back to the default, like this, for example, you make it like this, you see. Let's just do it. And I press a sphere here, create a sphere. Now I need to create a new file. You just go select a new all, and no need to save. You see, you didn't affect the settings. While if you create a sphere and you want to reset, not to create a new file, no need to save. Yes, everything is going to be reset to, is going to reset even the settings that you did in your scene. Okay, طبعا the settings in your scene that when you save your scene is going to be saved with it, so don't worry about that. So you see I'm in the entitled now. I will go and open recent, and I'm going to open my scene management file here. Okay, this is the scene management. Let me go to tools, grids and the snaps, and just make sure everything as it is. Okay, so this is the first point in this objectives actually, which is scene preferences. The second one is changing the scene units. So by default, as you can see here, when you draw a box, sorry, you are not drawing, when you create a box, actually I'm going to just create a box. Let me select a cube, and this cube will be selected. So these units, so the 40 40 40 represents what? Actually you can change them, and you have two different units actually in 3D Studio Max, and again we are going to talk about them because you need to know them when you apply for the exam, because they're going to ask about it, but they are not going to ask deep questions. Okay, they're going to just make sure that you know the concept, you know what are these. So to change the system and display units, you need to go to customize menu, and from here you go to unit setup. So by default the units are going to be generic units. You can select metric units, which has meters, centimeters, or kilometers, or you can select the US standards, which are feet, inches, and so on. Okay, these things are just display units. So for example, if I go to meters, or if I go to centimeters here, and I'm going to press OK, you see it's just going to change this file into centimeters. The display unit into centimeters, so the box size will not change. Okay, so I can just go back to the customize system units, scene units, and I select instead of meter, centimeters, meters, and you see it's gonna be 1 meter here. Okay, but what will affect the scene and might lead to manual changing of the sizes and all these things are the customize unit setup, the system unit themselves. You see the system unit by default they are in inches, so each unit here represents 1 inch. You can make it represents 1 meter instead, or 1 kilometer here. Okay, you see I will click OK. So now when I create a box like this, it will be, you see how many meters? It's too much. It's the same size but much different than this. Okay, now it's way different. It's not 1 meter anymore, it's around 4,000 something. Okay, so again at this point you might say, do I need to know all these at the beginning? You need to know that what they are and how you change them. You don't need to change them right now. Actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the standard one. I'm going to keep this as inches. These are the defaults, and I'm going to keep this generic. We might speak about this later on. Okay, the accuracy when you go further out the origin, which is this is the origin actually. We are going to talk about this later on, but at the beginning now you just need to know how to change them and what they mean, the system unit and the display unit, or the units in general, the project units. So they might ask you in the exam how to change the project units. You should go to, tell them I go to customize system or unit setup, and here you change the display units, and from here you change the system units. When you work on real projects, like when you want to draw a city or when you want to draw a tool or something, you need to worry about, or a house, you need to worry about the units you are using and which one is going to be proper for your use. And for example, if you want to model a furniture, you're not going to use centimeters actually. You might, but or let's say you are not going to use miles or kilometers. Imagine that you are going to create a sofa which is 1 kilometer width. What's this for, giants? Definitely you're not going to do this. You're going to use meters, centimeters, or inches, or something like this. Okay, so the last thing in this point here it's going to be the frame rate. So how are you going to change the frame rate? The frame rate is how many frames needed per second to create your animation, and this is actually very simple, and I'm not going to go through it because you already know it anyway. But from where you can change it in 3D Studio Max, the easiest or the simplest location to change this is you go here to the time configuration button. When you click, You see, you can go to the frame rate group. I'm not going to use NTSC. You can go to custom, and then you change whatever you want. You can make 30, 60, 120, whatever you want to do, or less. Of course, you know, for fluid animation, you should not go less than 15. Okay, for now we are going to keep it 30. On the NTS, you can go to film. Film is going to make it a little bit different, 24. But anyway, we are going to just go to NTSC, and we are going to talk about all these settings in detail when we reach the animation part of our course. So this is okay. So I will pause the recording for a minute in case you have any questions, and then we continue with the remaining. How to manage scene objects, organize them, change their name, group them, make them parenting, hide, freeze, etc., etc. So I will pause for some time. Okay, welcome back, students. If we go to the next topic here, as we said, we are gonna talk about how to manage scene objects. So I'm gonna have a few objects. You see, we are gonna learn how to select, group, parent, how to use the layer explorer to show, hide layers, and so on and so forth. At this point, actually, let me create a few objects. So I'm gonna create a sphere here, and I'm gonna create a cylinder. Let me create different type of objects. I will go to the 2D shapes, and I'm gonna create circle here, and I'm gonna create an egg. Okay, you see, and we might, that's it. Let's go to the lights and create I will go to the standard lights and create an omni light. Why I am doing this? Because I need to have different type of objects, so when we go through this, you know what how show, hide objects by type works. So I will go also to camera and select free camera, and I'm gonna just click the camera here. Okay, and then let's go to space warps, and let's add a particle bomb like this, and I'm gonna go to the helper and add a dummy object like this, and I think that's enough. So now, first of all, how to select an object? You simply click on it. Okay, you see this icon here in the toolbar, it's called select object. Okay, so by default it's selected, and the shortcut for this is Q from your keyboard. So if you are in another tool here, you just press Q, you are going to go back to the select mode, select object. You can simply click any object that you want to select, you see, and the color of it will change to white. When you click in anywhere else on the scene, on empty area, it will be deselected, and the wireframe color will be used to display the object. When you move over it, you see it will be highlighted, but when you click it, it will be changed to white color. Now, how can you change object color or name? When you click any object, you can modify or change its parameters, any of those, from the modify panel, and this is why it's used. It's called modify panel, so you use it to modify the object parameters and properties. So you see here, when I go first up here, you have a sphere. You can just name it to ball, for example. Okay, and I can click this square here to change the color. You see, I can change using 3dsMax palette, and remember, this is the wireframe color, the display color, what you're going to see here. When you render, you are going to render using your materials, as we will learn inshallah in the future. And here you have extra other colors. Of course, you can go to 3dsMax palette, you add a custom color, and you add whatever color you want. For example, I need to add this brown color here. Okay, yeah, let's say brown, dark brown, and I'm gonna add color. You see, this color will be added, and I'm gonna use it in my ball. Okay, as simple as that. You can do this for all your objects, even for the bomb. Yes, you see here, you can name it anything, and you can just change its color. Here you cannot change its color. Why? because there is no wireframe representation for the bomb, only this, let's say, placeholder. Okay, everything grayed out, you cannot select it. So you see, for the light you can go and change it. Yes, for the light you can change it, because you might need to make its color represent the actual light color. For example, this is a red color, this is a blue color, and so on. The camera as well can be changed. The 2D shapes as well can be changed. But space warps, helpers, from these menus, you cannot change their color. You can change only their names. And this is not a big deal, to be honest. And if you couldn't change their names, because usually they are helpers, you use them to do certain things. Okay, this is how we select. And if you don't want to select from here, especially when you have a very complex scene and you cannot find objects easily, you can select them from this explorer, or you can search for them. For example, I want to search for a ball. It will just click the ball here, I will select it. Or we can select the object by name from here. You see, when you click it, you're gonna have this select from scene object, very similar to what you can see here, and then you can select, you can search. Okay, you can of course filter your objects to make them easily selected. And for example, I want to see only the primitives, the 3D objects. Okay, so I will uncheck everything from here, and I will not be able to see them, only here. I mean, they're not going to be hidden from here, only from the list. So you see now, when the display geometry only selected, I can select only what I can available here. You see, I deselected everything. You see the shortcut. If you want to solo them, you can alt click. And what do I mean? And if I want to see only the lights, for example, I can alt and click the lights. Everything else will be deselected apart or except the lights. So I can see only the light, so I can select the light easily. This is another way of selecting object. Anyway, you might say, oh, why should I do this? It's just easy. I can select this from here and from here. Definitely this is the case. But again, when you have a very complex scene with hundreds of objects, it might not be easy to select them using your mouse or selection like that. You will need to select them from here or from select by name. Okay. Now, the other thing we need to know is how to group or parent objects. So to group objects, as in all applications, we select objects and then we go to group and we group them, give them a name, geometry, and that's it. When you select them, you move them. They're going to be moved easily like this. If you want to ungroup them, you go to group, ungroup. All these things, or most of them, can be done from these submenus. The context menu you see here, you can hide, unhide, group, ila akhirih. So for now, I can select both objects. Let me see, do we have a group option here? No, we don't have a group option here actually, but we have a lot of other things. As we will see, we can clone, we can hide, unhide, etc., etc. Okay, so this is how to group objects together. So how do we link objects together? And you should be familiar with linking from After Effects and Adobe Animate or from other applications. So when we link one object to another, we are going to make this object related to this object. So for example, I will select the ball. You see the select and link option from here. I can select this, and let me just, sorry. Okay, I will select this and click and drag. I will link this to this object. So now let me make this all visible, everything. You see now the ball, it is related to the cylinder. I linked the ball to the cylinder. I linked the ball to the cylinder, which means I made the ball the child of the cylinder. So now the parent is the cylinder, and the child is the ball. Okay, so now can I do it from here? Yes, you see, you can just drag and move it just like animate to the side, and then the egg is a child of the dummy. So what does this make? You see, when you move the dummy, when you rotate the dummy, when you scale the dummy, the egg will be related to it, as well as the cylinder. You see, when you rotate, they're going to rotate each other. When you move, they're going to move with it. But when the child moves, this will not be selected. So this is how we link. Again, one more time. You see, I will just move this away to unlink it. I will just put it to the side. You see, just move to the left, it will be delinked. Unlinked, sorry, not delinked, unlinked. You see, this and this. Now they are not linked together. If you can see it from the Explorer here. Now I will link the cylinder to the ball. I will do the reversing, the reverse process. I will just drag from here to here. As simple as that. Click, drag. Now the cylinder is linked to the ball. You see, the cylinder is linked to the ball. So when you move the ball, the cylinder will move with it, but not the vice versa. Okay? You want to unlink it. You go unlink selection and you click the ball. Okay? You click the ball and you just select unlink. So why nothing happened? Because the unlink should start from where you started the link. Who joined the ball? The cylinder. So you need to go to the cylinder and click the unlink. Okay? Remember this. You need to go to the child and unlink it from the parent. Okay? Not the vice versa. And anyway, even if you forget, you will see when you do it, the other way it will not work. You see, when you go to the circle, to the ball, you click unlink, nothing happens. But when you go to the circle, to the cylinder, and you unlink, it will unlink. So this is basically how it works. So now, can we hide objects from the scene if we don't need them? So there is a difference between hide and delete. Delete, that's it, they will go forever, while hide, you will hide them until later on when you need to use them. There is a hide and a freeze. Hide, you will not see them, you will not be able to select them by default, of course. And if you cannot see it, you cannot select it. Freeze, you will be able to see them, but you cannot select them. So this is very useful to avoid accidental modification or editing to certain objects. So how do we do this? There are several ways to do it. The easiest way, or the simplest way here, you can do it from here. You see the cylinder? I can turn this eye, it will be hidden, or I can turn this on, it will be frozen. When you freeze it, it will be grayed, like you see the eyes. Now you cannot select it. You see, I cannot select it. Even if I'm trying hard, no matter what you do, you will not be able to select it until you do what? Unfreeze it. You see, it's italicized, the text. So you unfreeze it. I can freeze any number of objects. I can freeze everything, actually. I can hide everything as well. Okay? This is one way to do it. Or you can select whatever you want and right click. You see, you can freeze selection. You can unfreeze all. You can hide all. You can hide by name. You can hide selected. You can hide unselected. You can do a lot of things from these sub-menus. Okay? Through experiments along your work, when you practice, when you play around with the values, you will be able to see how you change these things. From where else I can do this? Usually you can do it from the display menu here. You see, there is hide selected, unselected, hide by name, hide by hit, and you can hide by hit, and you go click, you will hide it, click, you will hide it. Okay, and then I can just right click to cancel this. Remember, you can right click always to cancel or to exit any mode, and then you unhide all. Everything will be back, or unhide by name. This is the hidden objects. You can select them and unhide them. You see, I will unhide, nothing selected, so nothing happened. I will unhide all. Very simple process. You can hide, you can unhide, you can freeze, you can unfreeze actually. And as I said, you do this usually to avoid accidental editing or modification or movement to your object. You can do it in any way that you find more suitable. You can do it from here, from here, from here, or using the right click. Okay. So what's this? They are sorted by layers. As you can see here, I have one default layer which has everything. Can we create multiple layers? Definitely we will. We can create multiple layers. I will leave this to a later recording, but basically layers used in 3dsMax just like any other application for organization. So you need to keep, let's say, your geometry in a certain layer, your shapes in a certain layer, your lights in a certain layer. You need to group, let's say this is room 1 lights, these are room 2 lights, you put them in certain layers and so on and so forth. Okay. And you can organize the layers, you can hide the layers. You see now they are all in one layer. When I hide them, they will be hidden all. When I freeze them, they will be frozen, all of them at the same time. Okay. So this is the point of having layers. See, you can create, manage layers, you can remove empty layers, you can do a lot of things actually. So far, I guess we are done with this. You see, navigate and rearrange hierarchies. This may include Scene Explorer, which is this one that we just did. How to link, of course, you just move it to the, you see, to the left. Okay, there is a problem with it. Anyway, let me select the ball and just move it down. I will just okay, they are sorted by layers. So just a minute, I will see what's the problem. So I tried to undo and I lost everything. So let's just go back again quickly, create what we just did. Anyway, here we are going to create a vortex, and here we're going to create, let's say, a dummy as before, and 2 lights and 1 star. Okay, just go and just make this different, and 1 donut, maybe you're hungry, and this one here I'm gonna sphere, and if you're hungry or you need a tea, I'm gonna create a teapot, and we're gonna create another sphere. So let me now select the donut. Okay, there is something wrong going here. Okay, let me just delete this one here. I think there is something wrong with the 3dsMax because even the keyboard is not working anymore. So I will just reset it. I will just link this. And now when you move this, you see it will be moved. It is just not displayed. Okay. Yeah, this is, I couldn't see this. So now you see, this is what you can do here. I can just put this with the geosphere. So now this is layer view actually. This is a sort by hierarchy. I need to see their hierarchy in the Scene Explorer. Okay. So now this is lead us to what we did, or what we want to do, which is this one, include the Scene Explorer. Okay. So at this point, let me just select this and delete. I cannot use the keyboard. What's the problem? Maybe this one here. No, not this one. Anyway, when we close the program and open it again, everything will be fine. So now at this point I will stop the recording, and we will see if you have, we will listen to your questions if you have any questions. Otherwise you need to practice what we explained so far. And the next lecture we are going to continue with this. Next session it's 2.5 hours, so we have more time. So this is why we are going to focus on these things, and they are going to be a little bit more exciting because we are going to use the array, the align, the mirror, how to do copies, how to يعني it's going to be a little bit more fun. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm going to stop the recording right now.